What is the single greatest fear of any entrepreneur, any creator, any person who has ever tried to build something new from scratch? It's not running out of money. It's not the long hours or the stressful competition. The greatest fear, the one that keeps people up at night, is the fear of spending months, or even years, of your life, your passion, and your savings, pouring your soul into building a beautiful, elegant, and perfect product that nobody actually wants. For decades, the conventional wisdom for how to start a business was like a form of blindfolded mountain climbing. You were told to write a detailed 5-year business plan, pretending to know what the future would look like. You would then raise a lot of money, build your product in secret stealth mode for a year, and then finally, launch it to the world with a big, expensive marketing campaign, and pray. Pray that your initial assumptions were correct. Pray that the customers you thought you understood would actually show up. All too often, they didn't. This is a recipe for catastrophic and entirely preventable failure. Eric Ries's The Lean Startup is a revolutionary and deeply philosophical alternative to this old, broken model. It is a rigorous and scientific method for navigating the extreme uncertainty of a new venture. It is a guide to turning the chaotic art of building a business into a predictable science. And its core message is a liberating one. The goal of a startup is not to build a product. The goal of a startup is to learn. The old way is broken. The myth of the perfect plan. To understand the genius of the lean startup, you first have to understand the foolishness of the old way. The traditional model of management was developed over 100 years ago for a world that was stable and predictable. It was a world of manufacturing, where you could create a detailed plan to build a car or a refrigerator, and you could be reasonably sure that the plan would work. This is what's known as the waterfall model of development. Each step flows logically to the next: concept, design, build, test, launch. The problem, Ries argues, is that a startup is not a car factory. A startup is an experiment. It is an organization that is searching for a sustainable business model under conditions of extreme uncertainty. And applying the rigid, linear logic of a car factory to a chaotic, uncertain experiment is a recipe for disaster. The old way encourages what Ries calls achieving failure. This is the sad and incredibly common story of a company that perfectly executes a flawed plan. They hit all their milestones. They build the product exactly as specified in the business plan. They launch on time and on budget, and then, they are met with a deafening silence from the market. They have built something that nobody wants. They have successfully and efficiently failed. The lean startup philosophy is a direct assault on this kind of waste. It is a methodology designed to minimize the most precious and limited resource a startup has: its time. It is a way to find out if your plan is flawed, not after a year of secret development, but after a week. It is a way to ensure that you are building something that real people will actually use and pay for. And it all revolves around a single, powerful, and continuous feedback loop. The heart of the lean startup, the engine that drives everything else, is a simple 3-part cycle: build, measure, learn. This is not a linear one-time process. It is a rapid, iterative, and never-ending feedback loop. It is the scientific method, applied to the art of business. Let's break down each part of this powerful engine. The first step is build. But this is not about building your entire, perfect, finished product. In the lean startup, the first goal is to build a minimum viable product, or MVP. An MVP is not a crappy, buggy version of your product. An MVP is the simplest, most basic version of your product that allows you to start the process of learning. It is the version that has the bare minimum of features required to test your core hypothesis about your business. A famous example of an MVP is Dropbox. When the founder, Drew Houston, had the idea for a seamless file syncing service, he knew that building the actual complex back-end infrastructure would take a huge amount of time and money. He didn't know if anyone would even want the product. So, instead of building it, he made a simple 3-minute video. The video was a screen recording that just demonstrated how the final product would work. He posted the video on a tech forum. This was his MVP. It was an experiment designed to answer a single critical question: do people want this? The answer was a resounding yes. The video drove hundreds of thousands of people to their website overnight. He had validated his core assumption without writing a single line of the final production code. That is the power of the MVP. The second step in the loop is measure. Once you have built your MVP, your experiment, and you have put it in front of real customers, you must measure the results. but Ries is very specific about what kind of measurement matters. He makes a crucial distinction between vanity metrics and actionable metrics. Vanity metrics are the numbers that make you feel good, but that don't actually tell you anything useful about your business. Things like the total number of page views or the total number of downloads. These numbers always go up and to the right, but they don't tell you if your customers are actually engaged or if your business is healthy. Actionable metrics, on the other hand, are the numbers that show a clear cause and effect. They are the numbers that can prove or disprove your hypothesis. This could be your conversion rate, what percentage of visitors sign up, your customer retention rate, are people coming back to use your product, or the revenue per customer. These are the real hard numbers that tell you if you are actually making progress towards a sustainable business. The third, and by far the most important step in the loop, is learn. After you have built your experiment and you have measured the results with actionable metrics, you have to do the hard work of learning from the data. And this learning process culminates in a single, stark, and brutally important decision. You must decide whether to persevere or to pivot. If the data is showing that your core hypothesis is correct, that customers are engaging with your product and that your business is moving in the right direction, then you persevere. You continue on the same basic path, and you run a new experiment, you build a new MVP, and you go through the build, measure, learn loop again, but this time, you do it to optimize and improve your product. But if the data is showing that your hypothesis is wrong, that customers are not responding in the way you predicted, then you must have the courage to make a much harder decision. You must pivot. The art of the pivot. A courageous change of direction. The concept of the pivot is one of the most powerful and enduring ideas from the lean startup. A pivot is not just a small change like altering the color of a button on your website. A pivot is a structured strategic course correction, designed to test a new, fundamental hypothesis about your product, your business model, or your engine of growth. It is a recognition that your initial vision, while brilliant, may have been wrong. And it is a courageous decision to abandon a failing strategy and to try a new one, based on the validated learning you have acquired. Business history is filled with famous and successful pivots. YouTube originally started as a video dating site. The founders realized that people weren't using it for dating, but they were using it to upload and share all kinds of videos. So they made a courageous pivot. They abandoned the dating idea and focused on becoming a general open video sharing platform. That pivot turned them into a billion-dollar company. Instagram started as a complex, location-based social network called Bourbon. The founders noticed that while most of the features were being ignored, people absolutely loved the simple photo sharing and filter features. So they pivoted. They stripped away everything else and relaunched the app as a simple, elegant photo sharing service. That pivot created a cultural phenomenon. The pivot is not a sign of failure. In the lean startup philosophy, it is a sign of learning. It is an acknowledgement that the startup's journey is not about perfectly executing a preordained plan, but about intelligently and dynamically adapting to reality. The startups that succeed are often not the ones with the best initial idea, but the ones that are the best and the fastest at learning. They are the ones who have the courage to admit when their hypothesis is wrong, and to pivot to a new one. The philosophy of validated learning. This brings us to the deep, philosophical core of the entire book. What is the true purpose of a startup? Ries argues that the true goal is not to make stuff or to make money or even to serve customers. The ultimate goal of a startup is validated learning. A startup is an experiment, and the goal of an experiment is to produce knowledge. Validated learning is the process of demonstrating empirically with real data from real customers the truths about your business. It is a rigorous process of turning your assumptions into facts. This completely reframes how we think about work and about failure. In a traditional company, if you spend 6 months working on a product that nobody wants, that is a massive failure. It is a huge waste of time and money. But in a lean startup, if you spend 2 weeks building an MVP that nobody wants, that is a huge success. Why? Because you have successfully and very cheaply discovered a crucial piece of knowledge. You have learned that your initial idea was wrong. And you have learned this before you wasted 6 months and millions of dollars building the wrong thing. This failure is a form of validated learning, and it is incredibly valuable. This philosophy is incredibly liberating. It frees the entrepreneur from the pressure of having to be a perfect, all-knowing visionary who gets everything right on the first try. Instead, it reframes the entrepreneur as a scientist. Their job is not to be a genius, their job is to be a rigorous experimenter. Their job is to create a series of testable hypotheses, to build experiments, MVPs, to test those hypotheses, and to be ruthlessly honest about the data that comes back. The entire lean startup methodology is a system designed to accelerate this process of validated learning. The engines of growth and the tools for speed. To accelerate this learning, Ries identifies several practical tools and concepts. He talks about the 3 engines of growth that a startup can use to achieve sustainable growth. The sticky engine is about customer retention. The goal is to create a product that is so valuable that customers stick around and continue to use it for a long time. The key metric here is the churn rate. The viral engine is about getting your customers to do your marketing for you. The product is designed in such a way that its normal use causes it to spread from person to person. Think of Hotmail, which included a link in the bottom of every email, turning every user into a potential salesperson. The paid engine is the traditional model, where you pay to acquire customers through advertising. The goal here is to ensure that the lifetime value of a customer is greater than the cost of acquiring them. A successful startup, he argues, must identify which of these engines is right for their product, and then focus all their energy on tuning and optimizing that one engine. He also introduces concepts from lean manufacturing that can be applied to the process of innovation. The idea of working in small batches is a key one. Instead of building an entire complex product and then testing it at the end, you build and test one small feature at a time. This dramatically shortens the build, measure, learn feedback loop and allows you to catch errors and bad assumptions much more quickly. It is a faster, cheaper, and more efficient way to learn. The ultimate message of the lean startup is that entrepreneurship does not have to be a blind, high-stakes gamble. It can be a disciplined, scientific, and manageable process. The book is more than a set of tactics for tech companies. It is a philosophy for anyone who is working under conditions of extreme uncertainty. It's a method that can be used by artists, by nonprofits, by creators, by people working inside large, established companies. It is a method for anyone who wants to bring a new and valuable idea into the world. It's a philosophical commitment to humility, to learning, and to the rigorous, evidence-based process of building things that people truly need and want. It is an inquiry into the very nature of innovation itself. If you are a person who wants to build a better and a smarter world, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Geeky Philosopher. Subscribe, and let's continue to explore the ideas that shape our future.